Careful, we may never realize that the enemy may have already created a stronghold on your life. No, they won't manifest your thing to read a lot of books. Your book won't catch demons. It won't do that. Okay. No, it's not a sin, and it may never appear as sinful. In fact, these things may not even be sinful, right? Like there's nothing wrong with spending a good time of rest for an hour or 2 or 5 and just resting. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with watching TV. Nothing wrong with playing some video games. There's nothing wrong with social media. There's really nothing wrong with that, right? And no, actually, there's going to be hardly anyone in your life that's going to come at you and be like, hey, you need to stop doing this because you've already convinced yourself it's not a sin. And hey, by all means, that Bible does not say it's a sin, 100%. Doesn't say it. There won't be a lot of people in your life that'll tell you probably need to get rid of that. So you probably won't even recognize it. And no, it's not drinking. It's not smoking. It's not isolation. And no, the sin isn't rest. It's complacency. It's complacency. If we're not careful, church, we may allow the most sneaky, the most dangerous, the most silent weapon of the enemy to come into our lives and slowly kill our calling. This is the calling killer. It's complacency. Complacency, this is the definition of it. You can Google it or you can write it down, but I ain't slowing down. Self-satisfaction, especially when accompanied by unawareness of actual dangers or deficiencies. That's a really good definition. Because when I get complacent, I just want the self-satisfaction part, right? But this one is tagged. It will be accompanied by unawareness of actual dangers or deficiencies you may be causing in your own life. Allowing ourselves to be complacent with our season of life can spiral your calling into the grave if you aren't careful. The attitude of someone who is complacent could look like these things. It could look like smugness, like, yeah, so what? Whatever, bro. What you gonna do about it? You know what I'm saying? They could jump at you. It can be stillness of life. It can be uncritical satisfaction. What does that mean? It's the lack of awareness of the actual dangers or deficiencies of becoming too comfortable with the situation. So maybe you're too comfortable in the situation. You're not really aware of the things happening or what things that could be happening. Disengagement. They slowly stop. They could be coming to church, hanging out with people. They stop slowly engaging with friends and things like that. And they only engage in the one activity that they love doing a lot, that gives them rest. It can be social media, it can be YouTube, it can be a lot of things. Things that aren't sins that are actually restful, but it can be all those things. It can be, then you'll see a loss of passion. So you can hear them say, you can hear their fire for God, you can hear their passion for God, and then slowly it's just like, well, whatever it happens, I'll be ready, right? You know, when God calls me and when this happens, when I get this offer, then I'll get rid of this thing and maybe I'll get a bit more serious. There's a loss of passion. And then minimal initiative. No drive or control to make improvements upon one's own life. And so they're used to struggling their whole lives. So even when things are good, even when they get a new job, when you get more money, when you get more friends, you just don't take the initiative to treasure them. Because you've been so used to being complacent, struggling. Complacency is like a small inkling of mold that you let fester and grow for years until you realize it's taken over your whole house, your whole life, your whole home, and has poisoned your life. With all the struggles of life, the enemy could use complacency to establish a stronghold in your life. And here's the dangerous part. Can you go? She's going to go get she's my assistant, guys. Woo! She's going to go get the props. So, thank you, guys. And here's the dangerous part. This is the part he begins to kill the callings and the passions for God, is when you're complacent. We convince ourselves, and even sometimes others, that it's just rest. And listen, when I get home from work, to be honest, I'm a simple man. The last thing I want to do is read my Bible. I know. I said it. I said it. I want to watch TV. I just want to lay in bed. I want to scroll on my phone. I want like the dopamine rush in my brain. That's what I want. And even you can probably argue that there has to be times where we can turn off our brains, right? Because if we're all about work, hustle, we get burnt out. we get angry, we get bitter.
Yeah.
If you go to the other side of rest, where it's rest, lay, call off, I'm sick, part time off, paid time off, then what happens is we get lazy. Thank you, guys. That's a lot of water. Yeah, I'll say that's a lot of water. All right? And so what happens is, when we're too much on the other side of rest, then we get lazy, we get complacent. Those 15 or 20 minutes of TV time turns to an hour, and then 2 hours, and then 3 hours.
Yeah.
And then what happens is and this is really the only way I can say, you get fog brain fog. You wake up and there's just something not right in your head, there's something, and you know you had a passion for God, but it's just super hard, even harder than before, to read the Bible or to go to church or to even perform well at work, to be a good character of Christ in the world. It becomes hard because what was happening, we've become complacent in rest, and we haven't taken God seriously. And the blessings that He's given us, the promotions, the financial blessings, meant to complement our calling, has actually, we've abused it and started to kill it. Now, I'm not saying don't rest. I'm not saying don't watch TV, guys, okay? And you know what you should be doing, right? I'm not saying don't do any of that. I'm not saying get rid of it. I would say even rest is important, right?
Yeah.
Rest is a commandment. God calls us to rest because He knows we need it. He knows we need it. He knows I need it. He knows we need teachers. He knows y'all need it. Right? He knows we need it. Rest is a necessary ingredient for us to survive and thrive on this side of heaven. But too much of a good thing can turn very bad. I have this illustration right here, and I wish I had. So this is some coffee, and I hope everyone can see. If you need to stand up, you got 2 legs, just stand up. Just come on, man. So this is our calling right here. This is our vessel, right? And so, like I said before, rest is a complementary ingredient to our calling.
Amen.
If we focus too much on the grind and hustle of ministry, we die. If we focus too much on rest and chilling out, watching TV, our calling will leave us. All right? So what God does, He bestows upon us, is super cool, like a measure of faith. Right? In Mark 9, they're just trying to cast out some demons. They're like, hey, God, why can't these demons be cast out? And He goes, hey, this can only be cast out by prayer and fasting. So there are some things, even in your callings, that you won't ever discover as you start praying and fasting. So He gives you a measure of faith. And we've all experienced it. The more you step out into faith, the more faith you get. Right? The more clear God's will is for your life. And you know that you're called to do missions. You're called to be a worship pastor. You're called to start a family, right? You're called to start a business and help others. And you already know that it's not going to be easy. In fact, all the pastors I met never wanted to be pastors. They hated it. But when God calls, right, God provides with it as well.
Yeah.
So we get these callings, and we're at the very beginning of it. We notice that something is filling us, right? Something has filled me. When I said yes to Jesus, I knew something filled me. I knew something was sticking with me, no matter all the sins I did, no matter how much I ran away. I knew there was something inside sticking with me. And so there was a lot of seasons, and me and Missy were in the same season, where what we would do on Harvest, we would serve on Sunday mornings, both AM services, serve on Sunday nights, serve on Wednesday nights, serve on Saturday nights, while having 30 hours at work, while going to school, while also being married and paying bills. And that is exhausting. That is crazy, guys. But God has brought us through it.
Amen.
Now with that, we've learned how to rest. We've learned how to fill ourselves up when, we can't fill ourselves sometimes. And we know what happens when you mix water and coffee. It makes it drinkable, right? So we see our calling. We know, hey, we really got to steward God well. We have to prioritize, our relationship with ourselves, our marriage, and with God, and know that that's really going to be the only thing that gives us rest, right? Mm-hmm. And you've all have experienced, y'all are more saints than me. I know y'all know how to do this better than I do. This is actually how our lives are supposed to be. Complemented with God's calling, with rest, so that when you put together, you're actually an effective person. There's a lot of coffee, okay? But I guarantee you drink this coffee, you're going to be awake. You're going to be alert. When we mix our calling with an adequate and necessary ingredient of rest, we're effective. We can go into ministry and not be burnt out no matter how jacked up y'all are, okay? We can go into ministry and do worship no matter how many hours I'm at work because I know that God fills my cup. I know that God gives me the strength. I know that God gives me the patience. But what happens when we take too much rest? What happens when we take too much rest is that our calling will no longer be the core of our existence. What happens is our calling will slowly start leaving us.
Yeah.
We won't be aware to it. But it's rest. It's not a sin. God told me to rest. It's exhausting. It's breaking my marriage. I need more rest. I'm not addicted to it. There's no problems. I can stop when I want to. We have more money in savings. We'll use that. I can read my Bible later. I can study later. I'll say no to preaching this time, and I'll say yes to next time. I'll stop when I get the call to be a pastor. I'll stop and be more disciplined on the word when I get the opportunity, when I hear from the interview. And what happens is our calling will actually cover our whole entire vessel. And we will never know of it because all we're filled with is what we've called rest. But it's just complacency. So now all the calling is gone. We're not familiar with it anymore. It's no longer inside us. It's ignored. It's muffled because we've convinced ourselves that the very things that's giving us rest is actually where the enemy has trapped you. What happens when we have too much rest? What happens when we're complacent? Is that actually that rest is complacency and it kills and squanders our calling and it eats it out little by little by little. It numbs you. Let's do it.
What's up, Ridge Valley? Thank you so much for watching our video. We hope that you liked that content and that you would keep coming back for more. Yes, remember to hit that bell so you get notifications.
You press that thumbs up so you like that video.
And make sure you subscribe because we love you and we want to see more of you on our channel.